108's not that hard. Stop whining. Let's just cheese it. What's going on, guys? This is Arkaden, and today we beat floor 108. Can't wait to share all the things about the floor, guys. Honestly, this is like a dream come true. The fact that this floor was just not crazy difficult to get through and had like all of the aspects of like, okay, just walk it down a couple times, give it a couple attempts, and you'll be able to walk through it, was like, thank you, Lord. Have mercy on my soul. This is so good. Like, literally, I've heard horrible things about 109. So jumping into 108, you're in for a treat. This one should be a relatively easy one. So let's take a look at the team comp. First on the list is going to be Tamarinne. Tamarinne finds her way back again, just like she always does, as being the PvE queen. I still have a 24 Wondrous Potion Vial, and I don't know why. I need to get that to plus 30. There were multiple times that were semi-butt clenching in this particular one, literally because I got silenced and I wasn't sure, is the Wondrous Potion Vial going to get rid of it or not? I lucked out, it did, but why risk it? You can have 100% uptime on it if you just plus 30 the artifact, so I should do that. Do that if you have the ability to. Make sure that happens. For Tamarinne, I ended up changing around the stats of like every character that you're going to see here, except I believe my Iseria, which we'll talk about here in a second. But Tamarinne, I made a little bit faster. She's at 229 here. Her health is a little bit higher. Her defense is about the same as I had it before. But more than anything, she is basically there to be a little bit faster than she normally is, just intentionally to go faster than Iseria, which I realize seems a little weird, but if you don't have a 10 speed difference between your Tamarinne and Iseria, and usually that's in the direction of Iseria is a little faster and Tam is slower, the 5 combination that you need in the end of this won't work. So just keep that in mind. Make sure that you have your Tamarinne 10 speed at least faster than your Iseria. So in our case, this 229 speed was perfect. All in all, Tamarinne, all the heals, all the strips, the boosts, the attack, she has it all. She has it all. I don't even have to explain it. You know why she's good. Bring this character. You'll see why. Next up on the list, we will talk about Iseria. Iseria, I did end up using just a Song of Stars on this time around. Honestly, just landing target debuff is just really, really nice. It's not necessarily like a game changer. Her defense break can be game changing. Her target debuff can be game changing, but in this case, isn't really, because we're Kiris cheesing and putting in a whole bunch of poisons. So what does Iseria actually bring to the table here? Well, she brings the reality of just being able to cycle with Tamarinne. She actually just, with all of her resets that she gets with her S2, just ends up super cycling the Tamarinne to be able to make sure that you are constantly healed up as you need to, and also are constantly doing damage. So as it goes, I would say if you've got your Iseria normally built, the way that you can see mine built here is pretty good. Again, making sure that your Iseria is actually slower than your Tamarinne, which is again weird, but making sure that it's slower is good. So I went with 216 here so that we would have that 13 speed gap in between, making sure that for sure Tamarinne would go first. Also, you'll note that the attack and the crit damage is pretty decently high, as well as the crit hit chance is relatively high too. So she does do pretty good damage. You add in her just general damage with her debuffs, and she's just going to be a force to be reckoned with, a nice extra character that is a great enabler for the team. The third character on the list that we're going to be talking about is Dizzy. Dizzy did insane work like she usually does, having the S3 for a lot of mitigation of damage, as well as chances to make them miss and speed and all that kind of stuff. She's so good. She has the ability to obviously increase turns on that with the S2, as well as CR manipulation, and then also some stuns on the S1. Just incredible character all around, just to have with you and on your team. The other really nice thing about her is that she needs to be kind of fast, but not that fast. You can keep her pretty much where she was. The main thing is that you need her health to be the highest health on the team. You need this character to be able to be the one that absorbs the debuff that Melissa puts out in phase 2. That is super vital, because it actually makes the character that has that debuff only attack with S1s, and that attack actually hits that character back. You can't actually do damage to Melissa at that time. It just hits Dizzy based on the curse. So knowing that the 5-turn cycling that we'll talk about when we talk about phase 2, she is actually not part of it, which is why she's the perfect target to absorb it. So make sure that her health is the highest health on the entire team. The speed matters, but it's not as important as that health piece. Finally, to round out this composition, you are going to have Kiris, which is important when doing a Kiris cheese. Duh. Okay, so things to note. You've got Sword of Judgment. Sword of Judgment is amazing in the sense that if you do get lucky, we don't, but if you do get lucky, you can potentially get more S1 procs, giving you potentially more poisons with Kiris. That's only going to be beneficial to your attempts. When it comes to gearing her, I don't normally gear her. I usually keep her at level 50 with like no gear on unless we have to use her for a floor. Don't bother taking her beyond 50. I think 50 is fine. Put just decent gear on. I ended up putting my Falconer Clury gear, and so it ended up giving me the health that I needed. The attack doesn't matter because poison damage is based off of the boss's max health, and so it has nothing to do with how much attack or crit damage you have on the character, so ignore it. Doesn't matter. The speed on a Falconer Clury these days is usually pretty fast, and so similarly, you're going to want that for Kiris. So we do get about 234 speed here as well, and then you'll notice the only other thing that's important for both Falconer Clury and Kiris is my effectiveness relatively high? We have ours at 137%, which is overkill for this, especially since you're already guaranteed that you're just going to miss anyways because you have elemental disadvantage into this boss just as a green unit into a fire unit. So all in all, really good. I mean, the team works solid. It just takes a couple of tries just to make sure that you actually land the debuffs that you need. So let me talk through this fight and we'll go from there. So as we dive right into phase 1 of this fight, you're going to notice that honestly, there is not a health bar at the top, which is so amazing because that means there's no official boss for wave 1. So pat yourself on the back. After like a bajillion floors, you finally don't have to do anything in phase 1 that's super, super challenging. All that said, this is not the fastest group of 4 mobs to get through, especially with this team. Again, Kiris cheese being what it is, you have to land the poisons, you kind of slowly tick things down, but they're not difficult. Each one of them actually has its own unique way of sort of doing damage, and I'll be honest with you, between the dual attacks of the harpies, and if you are debuffed, getting like a lot of extra damage done by the 2 mages in the back, there's a lot of initial damage that comes in up front, but because you're cycling Tamarinne and Tamarinne has that Wondrous Potion Vial, you're making sure that Tam is always able to S3, which is cleansing off those debuffs off of your team, and you're actually pretty okay. I would say, I think I ended up killing the Harpies first. I had done it several different ways where I picked just beating on the other mages first and then doing the Harpies. Both were fine. I don't really think it matters all that much. Dying here is relatively difficult because you're cycling so many healing turns with Tamarinne with the Iseria, as well as you're able to stunt a lot of that damage and extend a lot of those debuffs between the Kiris and the Dizzy. Obviously, the damage is slow, having all of the poisons come out from Kiris, but hey, it's worth it. Take your time. Your whole goal of phase 1 here is literally to get a full bar of souls, as well as to have every one of your abilities ready the second phase 2 happens. If you don't have all the other abilities up by phase 2, you will most likely have to fail out and try again, just because you do have to do a 5-turn thing that we'll explain here once we get into phase 2. But as far as phase 1 goes, literally just consider this one at a time, slow them down, keep doing your resets, keep sending stuff through, and even though you'll take a lot of damage up front because there's 4 mobs doing good amounts of damage, every time one of them dies, you have that much more ability to recover that much faster than before, until you get down to the last mob where actually not using major cooldowns is a big deal. You really won't need to because they're actually just really slow damage incoming. So do that and you'll get through phase 1, and I'll see you guys in phase 2. So once you get through phase 1, phase 2, you're going to see a Midnight Ferris as well as Melissa, and assuming that your team has all of their cooldowns up and a full Archie-bar, you are ready to rock. So a couple things to note in this fight. There are lots and lots of different passives and abilities that each one of these characters has between the Melissa and the Midnight Ferris, but only a few of them matter all that much to you with this composition. So to cut it short and just give you the long and short of why this matters to you, the Midnight Ferris has an ability in its S3 that attacks all enemies with a strong wind, transferring all debuffs before dispelling 2 buffs. Hit chances increase by 100% when using this skill. There are a couple of other abilities that it does, and they are semi-annoying, and they do have the ability to stun, but all in all, they're less important because the damage is pretty negligible just due to the fact that you're going to be debuffing this character anyways. And so it's really when he decides to transfer all of them onto every character on your team that it becomes actually something that you want to be paying attention to. So that's the Midnight Ferris. Most of the time you're going to be ignoring that unit because there's several different things on Melissa that will just re-res the character back up. So don't even try and kill it. It's not necessarily worth it. With Melissa, there are several pieces in here that are important too, but the big thing for her, just like with the Ferris, is her S3. Now, she'll start the fight with an S3 and she will use it immediately on your target that has the highest health. The highest health unit on your team will get what's called a Bloody Curse. The Bloody Curse does this. At the start of the turn, target attacks the enemy who inflicted this debuff with a basic skill. So basically, if it's Dizzy in our case, Dizzy is going to always, when it's her turn, take an S1 that's going to hit both the the Midnight Ferris and the Melissa. Now for Melissa, it's when you hit it, it's actually going to do this. Target receives all damage in place of the enemy who inflicted this debuff. So Dizzy's going to be damaging herself when she hits Melissa. However, when Dizzy uses the S1 and it hits the Ferris, you have a chance to actually stun it. Really busted, really, really nice. For all the characters that you're going to have to S1 with here, inevitably with the Bloody Curse, that one's a pretty good one. Being able to make sure that you sometimes get a stun is amazing. So keeping that in mind is really good. Also, this effect is dispelled when the ally uses a non-attack skill 5 times. Now, when it says an ally, it means literally anyone else on your team. It does not have to be like that particular character. In fact, it can't be that character because you are controlled by Melissa when that curse is up. So this is unaffected by any effects related to debuffs, and the only way to get rid of it is obviously 5 times using non-attack. So because of the way that the team is basically like speed tuned, you have this as your rotation right off the bat when the fight starts. You're going to S3 with your Kiris, then you're not going to hit Melissa, because if you hit Melissa and you land any poisons, that poison will still tick as if it was hitting the max health of Melissa, but it will do all of that damage to your Dizzy. So you really want to just hit the Ferris with your first S3 on Kiris, or S1 on Kiris after you use the S3. That's kind of sort of an aside, but it's really important because I killed my Dizzy multiple times doing that otherwise, and you may as well just transition the buffs, or the debuffs, it's fine. When that is completed, that'll count as one of the non-attack skills. Next up will be Tamarinne. Tamarinne, you'll use her idle form, which will be the second non-attack, and then you're going to use her S2 to boost your team, as well as give them attack buff, which will be your third non-attack. After that, Iseria goes after Tamarinne due to the speed tuning. So Iseria will go, you will S2 the Tamarinne, which will ultimately give you a fourth non-attack, and then after that happens, when your Tamarinne comes back around, you'll be able to S2 again, which will finally get rid of the debuff on the Dizzy. Once that debuff is gone, you can debuff, you can do as much damage as you can directly into Melissa, and Melissa should have about 2 out of 4 of her turns that have been taken before her next S3 at the point that you've cleared that debuff. So keep that in mind. You only want to do that 5-turn combination one time in this fight. So knowing that, make sure that as soon as it's time, as soon as you get that off, you are unloading as many poisons, as many increases in in extensions of poisons as you can. Make sure that you are still obviously using the S2 on the Iseria effectively, but keep this in mind. If you think that you need to actually just get more poisons up, feel free to just use that S2 on the Kiris instead of the Tamarinne, just to make sure that you're able to get off as many poisons as you need before 50%. At 50%, again, she'll get extra turns when she does like the Bloody Curse and anything there. So for what it's worth, I would just say, literally just try to get, if you can, 5 to 6 poisons up before 50%. And if you can extend them even one turn, you've basically won. You basically just stay alive for like 2 turns, and then she will actually just fall over. You'll notice in mine, I actually screw this up royally, because what I end up doing is I just keep cycling so fast with the Tamarinne that I forget to watch the Ferris's S3. The S3 goes off after I've gone into idle form, which means that I don't have the dispel to be able to get rid of all of the debuffs that just got transferred. And one of those debuffs is mischance. Your Kiris is already needing a fighting chance to hit in the first place. That makes it that much harder. So just keep that in mind. You really want to make sure that you're paying attention after you've done that rotation the first time to wait until the Ferris uses its S3 and then use Tam's idle form after that, just to be able to cleanse off all those debuffs and give the best chance around to be able to get through it. Long story short, if you do this and you get all of those debuffs to land, awesome. You're good. You're in the clear. This will be a really easy finish. If you don't, go ahead and just do the first phase again. It's only about 10 minutes. It's a really easy first phase, and you're only having to ever do that rotation that we had talked about here at the beginning one time. So after that, it's just unload into Melissa. If it's not enough because you don't land enough poisons, try again. But that's basically it. That's 108. So there it is, 108 completely done, guys, which means we have one more, I think, horrible floor. Everybody that I've talked to has said 109 is like the hardest floor for us to jump into, and that 110 is actually kind of a joke. So knowing that the rewards are going to be 500 mystic medals and 15 gold transmits here, I'm excited, because even though I know I'll probably get 3 stars, I always still get excited about being able to actually jump in and do more ML. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope this was a helpful, beneficial team to help you guys get through this. There are obviously other teams that can help you get through, but this one was extremely consistent. And I would definitely say that based on all of the different explanations we were able to go through in before and in between, that this just becomes obvious why this is worth actually playing. If you guys like this kind of content, love being able to do this with you, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. We really appreciate all of the interaction and all of the stuff you guys bring to this community. And we will see you guys on 109, which I'm, I guess, excited about. Peace, guys.